The question the Minchas Chinuch raises is, can one fulfill the mitzvah Paru RaVu with a Momzer? And we're talking about a Momzer who came from illicit relation. There's Momzer Beheter and there's Momzer B'Yisur. So let's say one committed adultery or some other form of illicit relations. They already have a boy, and now they commit adultery and they have a girl, and the child's a Momzer. Can one fulfill the mitzvah of Paru RaVu with a Momzer? There's a machlokes in the Mishnah Yavamas. How does one fulfill the mitzvah of Paru RaVu? Whether it's two boys, a boy and a girl, we paskin a boy and a girl. So according to what we paskin, can one fulfill the mitzvah of Paru RaVu with the Momzer? So at first glance, the Minchas Chinuch quotes the Yerushalmi, who points out that we know we have a principle we're familiar with from Lulav Hagazel. The Gemara says, let's say you steal a lulav to fulfill your mitzvah on Sukkot. So the Gemara says it's a mitzvah haba ba'aveira. It's a mitzvah done through the means of an aveira, and therefore it's a no-go. Not only don't you fulfill your mitzvah of daled minim, you violate an issur of gezela. So do we say the same thing here? Do we say mitzvah haba ba'aveira? Why don't we say mitzvah haba ba'aveira by Paru RaVu the same way we say it by Lulav Hagazel? So that's what Minchas Chinuch goes into a whole discussion. What is the nature of the mitzvah of Paru RaVu? So he has a big chiddush that he writes that the mitzvah of Paru RaVu isn't the ma'aseh bia, isn't the act, isn't the relations. Obviously the ma'aseh bia with the intention of having children, but it's result oriented. It's when you have the child, that's when you fulfill the mitzvah 9 months later. And if you don't have the child, you don't get the mitzvah. But this answers an apparent contradiction. There's a Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, and the Rambam paskins this way. On Leil Pesach, we have a mitzvah min Torah to eat a kazayis matzah. So they point out what happens if someone is temporarily insane. So we know if you're insane, if you're a shota, you're patur min mitzvahs. So let's say for our purposes, during the hours of 8 and 9 o'clock, you're a shota, and during 9 and 10, you become sane. So someone eats the piece of matzah between the hours of 8 and 9, and then they become sane between 9 and 10. So what is the story? Can you fulfill, do you have to eat another piece of matzah or not? So the Gemara says, yeah, you have to eat another kazayis of matzah. However, what do we see from this Gemara? The Minchas Chinuch points out that if you do a mitzvah during the state of exemption, it can't be mitzdaref later to count. In other words, you have to eat another kazayis of matzah. However, the Gemara in Yavamas seems to say the opposite. The Gemara in Yavamas is a famous machlokes, Rav Yochanan Reish Lakish, on the mitzvah of Paru RaVu for a ger. Someone converts to Judaism and they already have a boy and a girl. Do they fulfill the mitzvah of Paru RaVu, or do they have to have new kids or more kids? So Rav Yochanan says they fulfill the mitzvah. Reish Lakish says no, they don't fulfill the mitzvah, they have to have more kids. We passing like Rav Yochanan the Yotze. There's a further dispute within Rav Yochanan whether the kids have to convert or not. Some point out, even if they don't convert, you still get the mitzvah. Get into a discussion whether the nature of the mitzvah Paru will change. Originally it's for Goyim, or is this to populate the world? and now it's to populate the Jewish world. So either way, we pass now Rav Yochanan the Yotze. So what do we see from this Gemara? We see that someone does a mitzvah during the state of exemption, a guy's not chayiv in Paru RaVu, and yet he did the mitzvah while he was a guy, and now that he turned Jewish, he's getting the mitzvah now. So we see the mitzvah done in a state of exemption could count for later on. So we have an apparent contradiction. The Gemara in Rosh Hashanah says it doesn't count. You have to eat another piece of matzah. The Gemara in Yavama says you yotze the mitzvah. So how do we reconcile? So the famous Minchas Chinuch, he points out, because the fundamental difference between the mitzvah of matzah versus the mitzvah of Paru RaVu. The mitzvah of matzah is the Maisa mitzvah. And therefore, after the matzah, you have nothing left to show for it. If you ate the matzah during 8 and 9, come 9 o'clock, it's not recognizable. You ate a piece of matzah, and therefore it's a no-go. But by Paru RaVu, it's result-oriented. The mitzvah is that you have children, and therefore, right now I'm Jewish, I have children, so I get the mitzvah of Paru RaVu. And he goes on to, so why do we say mitzvah baba there by matzah, but not by Paru RaVu with the Momzer? So he goes on to explain that, let's say you have, how come matzah hagazo, if you steal matzah, and then you use that matzah for Leil Pesach, we say mitzvah baba avera. But if you machal Shabbos, you carry the matzah on Shabbos without an erev, and you use that matzah that was you machal Shabbos with, you still yotze your mitzvah of matzah. What's the difference? The mitzvah of matzah, so therefore the matzah is stolen, so the principle is, am I involved in the Aveira, b'shas I fulfill my mitzvah? So when I'm eating my matzah, Leil Pesach, the matzah is screaming, I'm stolen. So therefore, mitzvah baba aveira, you're not yotze. But by Paru RaVu, when you have the kid 9 months later, you could be doing anything. You could be in shul, you could be home, you could be learning. The fact that you were involved in Aveira 9 months earlier is irrelevant to the principle of mitzvah baba aveira. But at the time of the mitzvah, am I involved in the Aveira? So that's what the Minchas Chinuch explains. By matzah we say mitzvah baba aveira, but not by Paru RaVu. That's what the Minchas Chinuch writes. So therefore, by Paru RaVu, it's the result, and therefore we don't say mitzvah baba aveira, and you can be yotze with the Momzer. In fact, that's what he brings down. The halacha is that if you have children, and then the mitzvah is not just to have children, the children have to outlive you. If you have children, and the children pass on, and you had a boy or a girl, you have to have another one to fulfill the mitzvah of Paru RaVu. So they point out that that's the yesod of the Minchas Chinuch. Tosfos and Baba Basra seems to be cholek on it, that the mitzvah is the Maisa Bia, and that's what Rav Moshe seems to be cholek on the Minchas Chinuch. That's the yesod of the Minchas Chinuch. The Torah Yevon has a whole different approach in terms of how he reconciles the Gemara in Yevamos with the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah. About the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, he says that's the case of a shota. So the guy is like a mitasek. But the case of the guy knows exactly what he's doing. He's trying to have children. He might not know about the mitzvah of Paru RaVu. So therefore, one can be mitzvah if a person has some awareness of what's going on. But the case where there is no awareness, where the person's a shota, so therefore you can make a distinction. So that's what the Minchas Chinuch points out. The reason why we don't say mitzvah ba'avera by the mitzvah of matzah. Parenthetically, they point out the Yisod by Mila as well, that besides the Ma'isa Mila, the mitzvah could be result-oriented as well. That's what the Tosfos Harid points out. When he asks how come the Gemara needs a pasuk to exclude women in their obligation of doing Mila Nasan, it's a mitzvah Zeishaz Mangrama. So the Tosfos Harid says, no, it's not. The mitzvah is to ensure that the bris get done. And therefore, calling the molel, calling the doctor, calling the caterer, it's all part of the mitzvah. There's no time when the mitzvah doesn't apply. And the mitzvah is the result to make sure your kids come out. And that's the pshat, the Gemara with David HaMelech. He was in the Beis HaMerchat and he was getting depressed. What mitzvahs? So I can't do any mitzvahs until he remembered his milah. And he said, this Yashiv Daito, he was satisfied. The Shaila is like, what do you mean? He just had a circumcision right now? No, he had the circumcision years ago. So we see from here that not only is it a mitzvah to do the milah, but it's a mitzvah to be gamal. And that's the famous Maharach or Zarua, that we only say osek b'mitzvah patam in a mitzvah. If you're involved in a mitzvah, but mekayim a mitzvah, we don't say you're patam in a mitzvah. You're mekayim the mitzvah milah might be a continuous mitzvah, but you're not exempt from other mitzvahs. And that's the Or Zarua's Chad, the Maharach or Zarua's Chad, that we only say shlichas ha mitzvahs. If the Torah wants you to do the act, we don't say shlichus. But if the mitzvah is result-oriented, then we could discuss shlichus. That's a whole separate discussion, whether milah is nitan or shlichus or not. And that's the pshat in the Gemara. The Baal Shem Tov has an interesting pshat. He says, what do you mean? Why was David thinking about a milah? Why not think about other mitzvahs? Why dafka milah? So he points out he wasn't in the Beis HaMerchat. It's not to be taken literally. He was doing a cheshbon nefesh. He was going over what mitzvahs he does, what mitzvahs he didn't do, and he realized, what mitzvahs do I really have? I do that for that intention, that for my ego, that for ulterior motives. He couldn't find the mitzvah he actually did l'shem shamayim. Kulo l'shem shamayim. Until in Niskar Mila on day 8, baby, what more pure thoughts than that, and then he felt better. And that's what we say, Kishem shenichnas lebris, kain yikanes the Torah chupa masan tov, and it's like you enter the bris, and that's the mitzvah l'shem shamayim. So too, our Torah chupa masan tovim also should be l'shem shamayim. Of course, it can't be kulo l'shem shamayim. We're never going to be perfect, but we have to try to have a little l'shem shamayim. Because if you want something which is going to last, it has to be some l'shem shamayim involved, like the Tzivrait, it's the bris olam. Like milah is a bris olam because that's l'shem shamayim. So in our own lives, we should try to have whatever we can, at least try to do something l'shem shamayim. One aspect of my learning, one aspect of my davening, one aspect of my chesed, in order to make it lasting. But that's the Yisod of the Minchas Chinuch, that since Paru RaVu is result-oriented, it's not the Ma'isa Bia, therefore we don't apply the principle of mitzvah ba'avera, and one can, and the Ramah brings down, he's not recommending it, but post facto, if it happens, one can fulfill the mitzvah Paru RaVu, even with the Momzer.